Did you know using your browser in incognito mode doesn't actually protect your privacy? Take back your privacy with IPVanish VPN. Just one tap and all your data, passwords, communications, browsing history, and more will be instantly protected. IPVanish makes you virtually invisible online. Use IPVanish on all your devices, anytime you go online at home and especially on public Wi-Fi. Get IPVanish now for 70% off a yearly plan with this exclusive offer at ipvanish.com/audio.
Have you ever felt the pull of mystery? Introducing Seeker's Notes, a classic hidden object game. Seeker's Notes isn't just another game. It's a premium hobby with no ads, no Wi-Fi needed, and it's completely free. Over 40 million fans have already been captivated by its charm, so why not come see what it's all about? Download Seeker's Notes now for free and see for yourself.
Hey listeners, welcome to another season of Cozy One Podcast. We have made it to season 8. This season, I want to shine the light on mama's health, aka women's health, and some of these illnesses that I will be discussing with special guests can also affect men, but I really want to focus on what illnesses women go through and deal with and have to make sure their bodies are in check, have to make sure their diet is in check, especially if they want to carry children or carrying children. And you know, the knowledge of knowing your family history, how important it is for your health and your life. And that's what I wanted to focus on in this season. I hope you guys enjoy all of the guests. We're going worldwide with these guests. I'm talking to women across the water, across the pond, as they call it. I'm talking to women from different walks of life, and I just want you guys to get the information, learn from the information, and take that with you and spread it to someone who, you know, needed more insight on what they're going through or what their symptoms are. I hope you guys enjoy Cozy One Podcast. Don't forget to hashtag Cozy One Podcast. You can find me on Twitter, IG, and Facebook.
Hey, it's Anya Dula, and I am the host of Intercultured with Anya Dula. Intercultured with Anya Dula is a podcast that focuses on motherhood, culture, birth work, and travel. And it's just a place for women to come together to discuss our philosophies on motherhood, to discuss our work and birth work, if that's what we do, but mainly to bring women of all different cultures together so that we can talk about how we mother, how we #do motherhood, so that we can learn from one another and learn to love each other. That's really what it's all about. I hope you'll join us. Intercultured with Anya Dula podcast is available on all the major podcast stations. I hope you'll join us. Can't wait to connect.
My first guest that I have for Cozy One Podcast Season 8 is focusing on breast cancer awareness. Her name is Natasha Anderson. And I reached out to her through Instagram. And I just thought her page was very loud and outspoken about different women dealing with breast cancer and the raw details of what that's like. So I really wanted to question her on, you know, her own experience and her family's experience dealing with it, and what helped her get through that process, and what to be aware of for other women, and how we can be, you know, more in touch with our bodies to understand what to look for and what we can prevent and what we can help for ourselves and other women. So I hope you guys enjoyed the episode. I want to make sure, you know, women can get all the knowledge they can, even if they don't have it, so they can understand the next woman that does have it and might possibly have issues having children or have a child and have, on top of that, another issue with themselves while raising that child. So that's why I wanted to do this series where I'm just focusing on women's illnesses.
Yeah, no, excellent. So you came across me then on Instagram. So that's a good
Hmm.
thing because I started that page in October. And I remember I was having a shower one day after I finished radiotherapy, and I thought, I'm just going to start a page and see if there's any UK Black ladies out there because I kept coming across ladies from America, which was lovely. And I find them much more open to
Hmm.
talk about breast cancer. But the UK ladies of color, I'm like, well, where are you? I can't find you.
Yeah.
Um, so it's been good actually because from that, I'm networking with lots of different people, one of which is yourself. I'm trying to start some community bits up as well. So yeah, it's just trying to turn a negative into a positive, really. So it's all been good. It's all been
Yeah, I
good.
like that.
Yeah.
And I'm like you, I get my best ideas in the shower.
Yeah, or when I'm brushing my teeth and I'm like, I
Yeah.
can't even write it down, so I've got to retain it now for like, another 5 minutes.
Yes, I get my best ideas in the shower. So
Absolutely.
we're gonna start. I have like a few questions
Yes,
that I want to ask you, but even between those questions, you can elaborate. You can explain yourself or go into detail about something I'm not saying
yes.
because I'm the
Uh-huh.
one that's lacking the most knowledge on
Right.
breast cancer. So
Yes,
I want to know more, just like I want the listeners to know more.
yes.
So this is season 8 of Cozy One Podcast. This is episode 1, and we're focusing on breast cancer awareness. And we have Natasha, and you are from where?
I'm from the UK, London, northwest London. Thank
Okay,
you for having me, Chan.
of course. And my first initial question that I'm going to ask everyone is, what got you into spreading awareness on breast cancer?
Right. For me, it was quite a simple one, really. I was a third lady in my family diagnosed with breast cancer in 3 consecutive years. So I was diagnosed the end of November
Hmm.
2018, and then my mother the beginning of November, and her sister the year before.
Wow.
So when I first found out about my aunt having breast cancer, it was a shock because she's not somebody who smokes, she doesn't drink, she's a picture of health, textbook exercise, the whole 9 yards. So it was a bit of a shock. So when she got diagnosed, and then my mum, and then myself, only at 45, I remember going to see the general practitioner, and he was like, "Oh, Natasha, it's not breast cancer. You're only 45 years old, but we'll send you to the clinic."
Hmm.
So going through the whole process, the diagnosis, the treatment, I thought, no, I just want to raise awareness, especially for ladies of color, because growing up, and even now, cancer is still a taboo subject in
Hmm.
what we would call as the BAME community. We don't share enough, we don't talk enough, and for me, with cancer, early detection is key. So as long as it's diagnosed early enough, doesn't necessarily mean you're going to die. So even if I can just help one lady think, oh, that doesn't feel right, let me go and get it checked. 99 point times it could be nothing. But
Hmm.
I just think, raising the awareness and talking about it, sharing our experiences, because it's very different for women of color. Even simple things like hair growth is
Hmm.
very different to if I'm speaking to somebody who's Caucasian or Asian.
Yeah.
So for me, it was a no-brainer, really. Sorry, I know that was a long answer,
No,
but
that's the answer I wanted. But
yeah,
while you were talking, I didn't want to stop you. But what I hate about um, doctors on the conversation with the patient is,
hmm,
oh, you're this age, you have nothing to worry about. Whereas I always hear women in their 20s finding out they have breast cancer, women in their 30s finding out they have breast cancer. And I remember like about 4 years ago when my job, I was working for State Farm, an insurance company here, and they would have like certain health days at the job, and so
yeah,
they had a truck come to the site, and they were doing mammograms, and
yeah,
so because I had Blue Cross Blue Shield, I was like, well, I want to set up to do a mammogram. And because I did the form and application to have a mammogram, exam, they said, "Oh, what's your age?" And I said, I think I was like 20, 29 at the time. They were like, "Oh, you're
Right.
too young. We don't do that." But I'm just like, it shouldn't matter what
Hmm.
your age is. Once you have breast or developing breast, and then your history with your family. My grandmother died of breast cancer.
Right.
She had a breast removed, and she still passed away from breast cancer. My grandfather had prostate cancer, but that's not what he died of. So if I
Hmm.
have it on both sides, and I have women in my families that always purposely go check multiple times because of that.
Yes,
Why are you stopping me from being checked because of my age?
absolutely. And they say ladies under the age of 30, you don't need to worry about breast cancer. But I have come across so many women, you go back and forth to the clinic, and there are ladies of all ages, ladies who could be my grandmother, my mother, my sister, my daughter. And it's right across nationalities and cultures. And as much as doctors, they are the experts, but I always say to ladies, we are the experts in our own body.
Mm-hmm.
Our breasts are developing all the time. Cancer is just where, when the cells are dividing, it goes wrong. So that has the ability to happen in anybody. And going through my journey and experience, I've met so many women, young women, 26, 25, 18, who have cancer, you know, cancer of the uterus, breast cancer. So I always say to ladies, if something isn't right, men as well, just go and get it checked, because you know your body better than anybody else. And doctors are great at diagnosing, but they're also great at fobbing us off. It's all in your head, and just take this pill and take that pill. But you know yourself best. And if
Right.
you don't come out feeling a sense of, I'm actually happy with what they said, or I'm comfortable, go back, get a second opinion, and just keep going, because sometimes it does take a few visits to actually for them to do this test, and to get a diagnosis. So don't give up would be my
Mm-hmm.
advice to anybody, really.
Yeah. And even when you were speaking on women in the UK not being so upfront about what they're going through, being in a Caribbean family, because most of my family is Jamaican, they don't
Hmm.
talk. They
Snap.
don't talk. Even when my grandmother had breast cancer, it was very like, "Ah,
Hmm.
she has a breast cancer." I'm just like, I want
Right,
to know what that is. And it was very like secretive for a long time. I didn't know that she only had one breast, you know?
right.
And maybe it was because I was a kid, or maybe it was just because it was like keeping secrets is like mostly a Caribbean culture thing
Hmm.
where it shouldn't be widespread. So it's just a lot that needs to change when it comes to that.
Absolutely. I remember growing up as a child, you would hear so and so has died, or so and so's died in Jamaica. Um, but you never heard what they died of. And now I look back, it was cancer.
Mm-hmm.
Nobody spoke about it. It was almost as if, like you say, keep it hush hush, don't tell so and so. So nobody knows about it. And I think to educate us, especially as, you know, uh, a cultured community, we need to talk about it. We need to share our experiences. There's nothing to be ashamed of or afraid of.
Right.
But yeah, it's very much true, and it's still like that in the UK. And that was another reason why I thought, no, I want to just try and raise awareness on the ground in my community and just grow it from there, really.
Hmm. Okay. And how many women or um how many women would you say are at risk for breast cancer right now? Like one out of how many?
The statistics at the moment, and forgive me, I don't know if this covers the United States, but at the moment, the statistic in the UK is 1 in 8 women will be diagnosed with breast cancer. The statistic for cancer is 1 in 2. across the board. But for breast cancer, 1 in 8 ladies. And that doesn't, cancer, I always say to people, cancer doesn't distinguish across age, across cultures. It doesn't care. But that is currently the statistic. And, if I'm saying to you, 3 ladies in my family, and there's no genetic link because my cancer was based on hormones. I'm age 45, hormones are changing, estrogen a little bit too high, simply attaches, beg your pardon, to the milk duct, and it became cancerous. And I found a lump, and it's as simple as that. But that's the current statistic at the moment.
Do you feel like diet has a lot to do with possible cancers today?
Yeah, I have changed I'm not any expert on diet, but I do feel we are what we eat. I'm a firm believer in that, and I've changed my diet just slowly, and just little things like trying to cut down on my sugars, trying to have more of the good fats than the bad fats. Again, coming from an Afro-Caribbean background, I remember my nan, it was always fried foods, and
Listen.
yeah, there wasn't a lot of fresh fruits and fresh vegetables, but they would take supplements, vitamins instead. And it's like, well, you don't need vitamins, you can get this from the food. So yeah, I've even stopped smoking as well. So I just feel, yeah, you are what you eat, and exercise is a big thing, which I didn't do before. I would go 5 minutes down the road and I'd jump in the car, but I'm really starting to pay attention to what don't get me wrong, I do have the days where I go in the fridge and I open it and I'm like, give me that food.
Yeah.
But on the whole, I'm trying to pay attention because I do believe it has a big effect. Just lifestyle in general, getting enough sleep, not getting too stressed, all has an impact on everything
Yeah,
in
I
our
don't
lives.
know how the food is there in UK, but in America it's kind of like, oh, it's not real. Oh, they put this chemical in it. But how does it taste? And people don't care here, so they'll eat it. And there's a lot of foods that we eat that are like banned from other countries, where
Mm,
it's just foods that we eat every day. So I feel like with the chemicals going into our body and how it reacts, I feel like here it has a lot to do with like what you're eating. Even our chicken has steroids in it to look better on the shelf, and it's kind of like those steroids go into our kids, and then our kids end up with like full on breasts at age 8, and
mm-hmm,
you're just like,
absolutely.
where is this coming from? Or like, for instance, my 6-year-old that has to wear deodorant because I'm not understanding why her hormones under her underarms are so strong at her age. I never wore deodorant
Right.
until I was 11. So
Yeah.
it's like you have to pay attention to a lot of that. And I think once all of that is mixed in your body, anything can happen.
Absolutely. It's those reactions, isn't it? Because we don't know. And like you say, there's lots of preservatives, there's lots of additives to make things look pretty, to make it look nice. I mean, if you look at certain countries, and again, I'm no expert, but their incidence of cancer, if you take sort of places like Japan, Hong Kong, their incidence of cancer is a lot lower. But
Hmm.
they eat a lot of things like fish, they eat a lot of fruit and vegetables.
Hmm.
So I firmly believe the diet has a big part to play. I remember when I came over to America on a holiday just before I got diagnosed, 2018, and the fast food, my children, 19 and 15, absolutely loved it. I mean, obviously, we have fast food here. However, it was so much cheaper in America. I could get 2 Big Macs for like $5.
Hmm.
So I bought 2 Big Macs because that was cheaper, I found, than when I went into Walmart and I tried to pick up a yogurt and they were wanting to charge like $3 or something for a yogurt. And I would look down the cereal aisle, and every single cereal just consists of sugar. Um, so yeah, and let's face it, sometimes we go for what's convenient and what's
Hmm.
easier, especially as working mums and dads. You just want that quick, convenient. I fed the children,
Yeah.
and you just get on with it. Yeah.
Yeah. I'm always, when I go grocery shopping with them, I'm always looking in my cart when I feel like I'm finished, and I'm just like, okay, Chantal, how much of this food is processed and how much do you have to cook from start to finish, or how much can they just go in the fridge and eat. So I'm very big on fruits. I'm very, very big on like eating vegetables or drinking them because I juice a lot. And when it comes to meat, I'm very like, well, what did they do in the process of this meat? Because right now, when it comes to like our fish, they're creating fish.
Mm.
And our oceans are polluted. And so like even if you say, you know what, I recycle, I do all of this, there's so much plastic in the ocean that they're finding whales with stomachs of plastic. They're finding fish with plastic within like their whole fiber of being. So it doesn't even matter if you're healthy and what you eat. Our oceans aren't healthy and they swim in it. So it's
Yeah,
hard. It's hard, but it's just one of those things that you have to
yeah,
pay attention to.
absolutely. We can only do our best.
Hmm. How often would you say women should check for breast cancer?
Right, I would say the first of every month. I would say as even more regular than that. You know, you're in the shower, just basically run your hands. You need to get like two of your fingers. So your first two fingers, just run them around your breast in a circular motion. You want to sort of come up to just below your chin as well, feeling for any lumps, feeling for any irregularities. I have to say that word quite slowly, bearing in mind around, you know, menstruation time, your breasts do change
Mhm.
anyway. So it's also trying to learn what your breasts are like then. You want to go right down to sort of where your rib cage is and onto your arm as well, because ladies, I've known ladies who have found lumps under their arms, and you're just feeling for anything that feels different from your norm. You know, there's no two ladies in the world whose breasts are going to be the same, feel the same, look the same. Even as individuals, our left looks different from our right. But you're just checking for anything that's different from how it would normally be. And if you don't have the time to do it once a week, at least just say it's the first of the month. Let me just have a quick check of my breast. Do it in the shower. Do it before you get in the shower. Do it when you're changing your clothes to go to the gym. You can fit it in anywhere. I mean, we're very fortunate in this country, and again, this came through my experience when I used Instagram a lot. And I would speak to ladies in America, and I would see they're phoning around to get insurances, or they're phoning around to get their medication. And I'm like, hold on a minute. I go to my GP, the GP refers me to the breast clinic. This is all because, you know, we pay our taxes, so it goes to the National Health Service. Within 2 weeks, I'm seen. Within 2 weeks thereafter, I get a diagnosis. I'm seen by an oncologist. I'm seen by the surgeon. I pay nothing. When I even used to go and have chemotherapy, I would say to the doctors, can I have this, please? Can I have that? I leave the hospital with a bag of medication. So it's just
Not
a very
us.
different, yeah,
Everything
very different
everything is about
experience.
money, everything is
Yeah.
about access, everything is about, okay, you say you have insurance, what kind of insurance do you have? Oh, we don't take that. Oh, we don't take this. And it's like, where where's my money going? Am I paying people in healthcare to live their lavish lifestyle after they retire?
Mhm.
Or am I paying people in healthcare to make sure my health is okay? And
Yeah.
it's a very fine line here in the United States. Like even now with just quarantine of what we're having, a lot of people have an insurance card but are being denied by a lot of doctors because they don't take that type of insurance. And
Wow.
the places that do take their insurance, oh, we're not accepting new patients. And that is only because I, right now, am dealing with finding a dentist that will take my insurance. And then the ones that I do find, they tell me, oh, we're not taking new patients. So where does that leave you? And
I
that's how
know.
our healthcare is here.
Wow. And I mean, it would break my heart. I'd be sitting there, you know, you've just come back from a chemotherapy session, so you're not really feeling the best. And
Mhm.
I literally put my whole journey out on Instagram, from shaving my hair to no eyebrows to challenging days to good days. Because I always felt, you know, going through the journey, it's about showing positive memories and making positive memories. So sometimes I'd jump on Instagram and I would see ladies, you know, doing exactly what you do. They're on their last set of chemo drugs and they're now having to find a replacement. And I just thought it was absolutely heartbreaking to see it and watch it and experience it. There's another lady I speak to in Pakistan, and she's tried to commit suicide twice because of how she's been isolated, her family's cut her off. Having breast cancer in Pakistan is almost as if you've got a curse, you've caused it on yourself. And it's just, yeah, it's so interesting to see how breast cancer in different countries are managed. I mean, don't get me wrong, your services in America are absolutely amazing, but it's the hurdles and the hoops that you've got to go through.
Right.
If somebody's told you you've got cancer or you need a new heart or you're not well,
Right.
you would just think you just
Here
go and see a
it's
doctor.
like, how much money do you have? Who is your family? Are you Black? Are you white? Are you Asian? Well, we're just gonna let you sit in here and not have these meds that you need, or we're gonna ignore your needs while you're in here. And it's very like, why does it have to be those other things? Why can't it just be, I'm sick, I need help, I need a doctor?
Absolutely. Absolutely. Because that's what it comes down to at the end of the day. I remember probably it was about 3 years after the Twin Towers, and I came out to Manhattan because my uncle had pancreatic cancer. And again, he kept it very hush hush, didn't tell anybody, to the point that when I arrived in Manhattan and went to see him in the hospital, I walked past him because I didn't recognize him. That's how much the cancer had totally changed him and destroyed him. And in our country here, if you're in hospital and you need an ambulance to get home, it's part of the service you get in hospital. And I remember my aunt having to get her credit card out to pay for an ambulance to get my uncle home, who was dying. He didn't just have cancer, he was dying of cancer, but his insurance didn't cover the ambulance.
Right. A lot of the insurance don't. And even at that was one thing that I was terrified about at my job that I was working at while pregnant with my kids. If you go into labor, you can't leave and drive and go to the hospital, even if somebody takes you. So you would basically have to keep it secret, go downstairs into the parking lot, have someone drive you. I even talked to like my kid's dad, and I was just like, if it happens, I'm gonna call you from the parking lot and then you can take me. Even though the hospital that I was going to was about 5 minutes from my job at that time, they would call an ambulance and then you would have to pay for it, which is like thousands of dollars.
Gosh. It's just it's absolutely shocking, because here I pick up the phone, I hit 999, it will say police, ambulance, or fire brigade, and I say which service I want, and they're here, and that's it. You know, we pay 20% of whatever we earn, and that just goes to all these public services. So even if you don't work and you need a hospital, you just walk into a hospital, you are going to get the same care anybody else is going to get, whether you work or whether you don't work. It's as simple as that, you know?
Yeah, that's all. American politics is very, we're not here to help you, but how much are you going to pay me? Like, even all our ambulance companies, they're private, so they're not even working with the hospitals. It's kind of like, in the Jewish community, they have Jewish ambulance companies. No one else is picking them up. It's that. And then in other communities, you gotta get whoever's coming. And it's crazy. It's wild. I just wish it would change to where, you know, people shouldn't let themselves basically die no matter what sicknesses or illnesses they have because they can't afford it.
Absolutely.
That shouldn't be the case. People shouldn't be stopped from going to college because they can't afford it, where other countries pay for that. It's our structure. Our structure it doesn't make any sense.
Yeah.
In cases of breast cancer, how often do you see or think that the breast cancer can come back? Like, what's
I In my instance, because of the type of breast, they with breast cancer as a whole, they give you a 5-year window.
Mhm.
Once you've completed whatever, whether you have surgery, chemo, radio, the following year, every year on diagnosis for 5 years, you will have a repeat mammoplasty. That's just standard practice for everybody. And that will, check the breast, just make sure everything is okay. You will then see the oncologist if you need to. So they give you a 5-year window. If you've gone through the 5 years, they pretty much then put you back into the system. So it's every 3 years now.
Mm.
You'll just get the mammogram done. In my case, I had another test done, and again, they only offer it to you depending on the type of breast cancer. And it came back saying that within 9 years, if I only had surgery, there was a 20% chance it could return. If I had surgery and chemotherapy, no, sorry, surgery and radiotherapy, it dropped it to 15. Radiotherapy, chemotherapy, and surgery dropped it to 5%. So my chances now within the 9 years have dropped it to 5%. But generally, they give you a 5-year window. I've known of ladies, not personally, but via Instagram, where within 2 or 3 years the cancer has returned. Within 10 years the cancer has returned. But what I'm a nurse myself by profession, but I didn't even know that there were 12 different types of breast cancer. I
Me
had to
either.
I had no idea. I'm a school nurse, and I did oncology way years ago in my training. And I went away because I'm a strong believer that knowledge is key. And when I go and see the doctors, I want to go in and be part of what they're telling me, be part of those decisions, question them. So I had to go away and re-educate myself on breast cancer. And I was like, wow, 12 different. I just thought breast cancer was breast cancer, and that was it. But depending on the type of whether it's hormone receptive, where it's happened in the breast, yeah, it's there's a lot out there, and that again depends on the type of treatment that ladies will have, the type of chemotherapy, as well as radiotherapy that they will have. But yeah, 5 years they say. Is
Wow.
the
I always listen to people speak about breast cancer. I'm just like, well, they're not talking about what I'm thinking about. And what I'm usually thinking about is the fact that on top of everything that you guys are dealing with and going through, in the middle of, okay, the cancer is gone, let me be prepared and look out for it coming back.
Mhm.
That section right there, you're going to need therapy to figure out how to live life to the fullest extent and not be in fear of always feeling like it's going to come back and your life is going to be like on pause again and you can't
Yeah.
do certain things. So for you, being that you've experienced going through the process, how do you uh not let the fear of or the thoughts of it coming back interfere with how you live your life?
Yeah. When I always say to people, because, people have this notion, okay, you've had surgery, you've had chemo, you've had radiotherapy, it's done and dusted, go and get on with your life.
Mhm.
And, you go through those milestones, I call them. But every time I have chemo, I see a doctor, they check my blood, they do scans, I know I'm okay. But then you come to the end of your treatment, the oncologist signs you off, the surgeon signs you off, you don't see anybody. So now you start thinking, oh, every little twinge I used to get, I'm like, oh my gosh, that's cancer. Oh my gosh, that's cancer. My back hurts, it's cancer. This hurts, it's cancer. And you can literally drive yourself mad with it. And I literally did drive myself mad with it. And I had to say to myself, I'm a woman of God. I strongly believe in God, and my faith was what got me through. And I had to just say, Lord, you've brought me through this cancer. So he didn't give it to me, but he brought me through so I can help other women. You know, hopefully somebody will listen to this conversation that we're having and they might think, well, actually, I've been meaning to get my breast checked, or something they might take from it. But
That's what I want.
yeah, I've had to give it to God, really, because like I say to people, actually, for me personally, it's now the healing begins. I finished chemotherapy on the 9th of August last year.
Mm.
And it's only after that the side effects really start kicking in. I got to the point I couldn't even walk up a flight of stairs. But, you know, like I said to you earlier, I did a bit of Keep Fit today. There's no way this time last year I would have been able to do Keep Fit. So I just keep focusing on the little milestones that I do. And, you know, if something ain't right, yes, I did. One of the medications that I'm on at the moment causes a lot of abdominal pain. So I got a bit paranoid with that. But this was during COVID, went straight back to the GP. They sent me for tests. And I just now say to myself, Natasha, give it to God. You know, you are here. You cannot keep constantly living in that fear, because otherwise it will just ruin your days, ruin your thoughts. And
Yeah.
it is that fear that, yeah, okay, it could come back. But I'm like, you know what? I pray it never comes back. And I'm very optimistic anyway. You know, I also lost a son 15 years ago when he was
Wow.
born, 19 hours after he was born. And I think that's been my motivation just to get through life. And I think if I can get through that, I can get through anything. So just try and keep it positive. When those negative thoughts come into my mind, just think, okay, counteract that with something positive.
Mm-hmm.
And I think it's no point worrying about something that ain't happened. That's what I have to keep telling myself. It ain't happened. Why are you thinking about it? Why are you worrying about it?
Right.
Because then it's just taking away your joy and your peace.
Mm-hmm.
And that's what you're trying to get back. So yeah, just counteract a negative with a positive, I think.
That's good. While you were speaking, I was like, I wonder if they have, something set up or set aside for patients that are going through the chemo, like a chemo buddy nurse, because I know not everybody has someone to take them back and forth from chemo. Not everybody has someone to help them get up steps or maintain moving around in their house. And it's kind of like you would want a nurse or someone, certified to understand that process to be there with you. And that should be like something that is
Mm,
something that we have. But again,
yeah. I don't think I mean, you know, if it's a case of going back and forth to your appointments, you have the transport system. But I understand what you're saying. You know, when you've had your chemotherapy, you get home. It'd be nice if you don't have family, if somebody's there to help you have a shower, get you into bed, fix you an evening meal. All of that would be absolutely lovely, which we don't actually have a service like that unless you pay for it. You know, you get a private carer. However, we're very fortunate, and I'm not sure if you have the same service in America. We have the chemotherapy suite at the end of the phone. When that suite shuts down in the evenings, we've still got access to somebody. We have the chemotherapy nurses, the breast care nurses. So you have pretty much around the clock medical support. But like you say, somebody in the home, you generally probably have to pay for that privately. But I was very fortunate. I had my family with me, but I'm also the type of person, I'm like, no, my mind tells me I can climb that flight of stairs. My mind tells me I can get out of the bed and
that would
make myself a
probably be
cup of tea,
me.
even though it's going to take me half an hour to fill the kettle, lift the kettle, put the
Yeah.
sugar in the tea. Yeah, I'm going to do it. And that's what I had to do, because for me, I didn't want, you know, especially being a woman of color, I was always somebody, I'd have my weaves on, or I'd have my crochet braids, I put them in, take them out, do it all myself. So when I lost my hair, I was like, oh, I've got no hair, you
Mm.
know. But for the first 2 weeks, I wore a scarf, and I remember going to chemotherapy unit. And one day I thought, you know what? I'm not putting that scarf back on my head. I'm just going to walk out here and I'm just going to rock my bald head, because this
Mm-hmm.
is me. This is my story. So
Mm-hmm.
every day I would try and drag myself out of bed. Take me the whole day, something to eat, walk around the park, because I didn't want to reinforce that you're on chemotherapy. Okay, you're sick. Okay, you got cancer. I was like, no, 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 no. The cancer's gone because they've cut it out of my body. The chemotherapy, I see it as an injection, like a vaccination, just a preventative. So just try and have some form of normality, even if it's just a walk around the park, because that's what normal people do. That's what people who
Yeah.
don't have cancer do. So for me, that's what I did every day, rather than just come home and, yeah, you feel rotten. Don't get me wrong. You feel absolutely awful.
Mhm.
But I just thought, I'm not giving into it by sitting in the bed and just wasting away. you know
Good, good. Yeah, you have to push through that. Just like you would push through any other negative in your life. You can't sit
Absolutely.
stagnant because that's when the stress comes in and that's what helps bring it back. So,
Yes.
we have to do the opposite, just like how our body normally fights for us. We gotta
hmm
fight for our bodies, and
Yeah.
that's just something we have to do.
And it's
Um,
quite a strange one, actually, because you think your body's tried to attack you by
yeah.
making these cancer cells. But in the same breath, here's my body now fighting to try and save me. It's a weird
Mhm.
one to try and get your head around that
Yeah.
concept.
I
You know?
think when people get any like type of cancer cells or tumors, you got to think of it as possible people that come to your life as friends, and
Mm.
then you learn that they were in disguise as something else. And I feel like that's what those cells are. It looked like something normal that's supposed to be here, and then it
hmm
grows into something that's toxic to the body. And I think that's how breast cancer cells work, because before I had my second child, I had a uncle who, here in America, is very rare that Black men take themselves to the doctor, that Black men go to all of their preventative care each year. He would go to his dentist appointments twice in a year. He had about 4 different types of glasses in rotation, always went for his exams. He went for his colonoscopies when he was supposed to, everything, his physicals, everything. And he always had a fear of being in his 50s and dying, because all of his siblings got to their 50s and died except one.
Right.
So he always was like very animate about, making sure I go to the doctor. And I don't know if he was 59 or 58, but he went to the doctor, found out he had stage 4 brain cancer. And I
Wow.
just slowly watched his body deteriorate
Goodness.
until like I got to the hospital and I would go see him before work and he didn't recognize me. And I would just let him talk. And because I was pregnant, I had to limit me seeing him, which
hmm
which bothered me because I want to see him, but I can't take the stress. So
Yeah.
it was very hard to see, and he died before he could meet my second kid. And just like even men that take their care, to like the utmost importance,
Mhm.
and can end up like that. And it's very hard to try to understand, like, how can a man that was so healthy and took care of himself end up like that? But it happens every day.
Yeah, it does, unfortunately. And breast cancer, I always remember the breast. It was quite funny actually, because like I say, you go to the appointment, you have a mammogram, you have a
Right.
biopsy, then you go back and you see the doctor. They pull up the mammogram on the screen. Being a nurse myself, he did that doctor face. When they do that doctor face, that look of concern, finger
Right.
on the chin, and they put their head to the left. And I said to him, don't do that. Don't do that. Because this is the same hospital I work in. Don't do
Yeah.
that. I said, why are you doing that face? And he said to me, I said, why you, and he said, it looks like cancer.
Mm.
And I remember leaving the very same hospital that I'd worked in for years and years and years,
Hmm.
and just going to the desk, because I remember them saying to me, you need to book another appointment. I went to the desk, and I remember the lady, the receptionist, she was taking forever to book this appointment. And you know, when you're trying to hold back the tears, I'm trying to hold back the tears because I don't want to cry. I don't want to cry.
Because
And
your
I'm
mind
thinking,
is
lady,
wandering.
yeah. And I'm thinking, lady, just hurry up and give me.
Yeah.
I'm laughing now, but at the time. And I remember walking out the hospital and thinking, okay, that's it. So I'm 45, I'm going to die. I need to start planning my funeral. But then
See?
when I went, but yeah, when I went back 2 weeks later and the doctor said to me, right, it's stage one. And I remember when I went with my mum, they
Mhm.
gave my mum this book. It was quite ironic actually, because I was sitting in the waiting room and I'm sitting there, I'm feeling sick, I've got palpitations, I'm sweating because now I'm waiting for the results for you to tell me whether this cancer's gone through my body or we're just stage one, stage two.
Mhm.
And they were running behind as they always do at the doctors. And I remember it whittling down from like 30 ladies, and then there was 4 ladies left. And
Mhm.
every time the door opened, my heart would skip a beat because I'm waiting for them to say my name, call me in. And I saw the nurse pick up the same book she gave my mum. You only get this book when it's confirmed cancer. And I saw her pick up this book and walk into the room. And I said to my mum, they're going to call me in that room. And I remember them calling me in, and I remember I sat down and the breast care nurse had the book in her hand. And I remember saying to the doctor, you don't need to say it because she's got the book in her hand. I said, you're the
Mm.
same doctor that saw my mum. But I remember her saying to me, breast cancer, if you're going to get, she said to me, if you're going to get any cancer, breast cancer is one of the better ones because generally a lump is found. Most women with breast cancer, not in my aunt's case, hers was picked up in a mammogram because it was quite deep in the breast tissues. But
Mhm.
mine was a lump, my mum's was a lump. And the majority of breast cancers are picked up with women finding a lump. Where it goes wrong is when they don't act on the lump. They just think, oh, it's just a little cyst, or oh, it's just a little fatty gland. I'm going to
Yeah.
leave it. And by the time they leave it, it's spread to the auxiliary glands and it's gone on to stage 3, stage 4. So breast cancer is one of the better ones. You know, like you say in your uncle's case, unfortunately, some cancers are so much harder to detect, you know, and some of them, like pancreatic cancers and rectal cancers or ovarian cancers for ladies, by the
So,
time,
because you say that, that's what I thought he was going to have. Because even he would
right,
talk to me about having blood in his stool for
ah,
like a year prior, but he will also share that with his doctor. And so he was doing tests on his colon to see if that was the case, but it wasn't. So I
right.
feel like him having the fear of dying in his 50s because his siblings all died in their 50s, and him being on alert with things that he was seeing. How can you
Mm.
see brain cancer?
Absolutely, absolutely. And it's only when it gets to the very end stages, and that's why I was saying initially back in the beginning,
Mm.
keep going back to the GPs because, especially being a young lady, I remember speaking to one lady, she had, I think she was 26, and she had ovarian cancer, and her only signs was her periods had changed a little bit. However, she just had a baby. So that's kind of you say, you know, you wouldn't think, okay, that's ovarian cancer. She also had abdominal bloating, which is another sign of, you know, cancers sort of in that area. And she went back to the GP and they fobbed her off 5 times. And she said, no, I want to go and see an oncologist. And it turned out that she did actually have ovarian cancer, age 26. But black men as well, or men of color, they are probably worse than us ladies are going to the GP. I mean, the statistic here in the UK is 1 in 8 black men will have prostate cancer. And I was speaking to a couple of my male friends the other day, and they were like, "Oh, I'm not going. It's gay. It's gay." And I'm like, "No, it's not gay." So one of them is in America. These are friends that I've actually found throughout lockdown. So we have like a little social group. So all 3 of these gentlemen now have agreed if they each book an appointment, they will go, 2 in the UK and 1 in the States, they will go and have their prostate checked because Men are the worst, I think. They're like, oh, it will go, I'll just leave it. But you can't. Because like I say, it may be nothing. Like the majorities of lumps are nothing. They're just benign tumours, which are fine. But what you don't want is to go and they're telling you, okay, you're a stage 3, and it's a completely different story and a completely different experience then.
Yeah, it's just like scary to think for even somebody that you may know, but it's scary to think for yourself and not know how much time you have, what can you do, and am I a prisoner in my body?
Absolutely. Because I think, the scariest thing for me was you sort of think, oh my gosh, my body can make cancer cells. And when I think about it now, I was actually in America on holiday, enjoying myself. I got diagnosed about 4 days after my 45th birthday. So you just think, my days. And I had had I not felt the lump, I would have been none the wiser. I had cancer. Nothing had changed for me. I was still working 6 days a week. My appetite was good. I was sleeping good. There was no other signs. Even my bloods, I had some bloods taken. They came back normal. The only indication that something wasn't right was I had a lump in my left breast. And it was quite ironic actually, because I had a dream, my granddad who's passed, and I kept thinking, oh, I'm just going to go and get this lump check. And he came to me one night in a dream and he said to me, all he said was, it's cancer. And he disappeared in this dream.
Wow.
And I woke up the next day and I was like, no, you really need to go and make that appointment. And I think, had I not had that dream,
You wouldn't have went.
no, because I'm like, it's just a lump. It's only there like when, I'm menstruating, and yeah. So I'm just, thank God I did. Otherwise, our
Listen,
conversation would have been very different.
for people who are good listeners to themselves and to messages of people who were once in our life and are not anymore, you don't have to be the most religious person. You don't have to be the most spiritual person. But I feel like people don't come to you in visions or messages for no reason. And if you have a dream or a vision of something happening before it happens, or something happening in your dream while you sleep, do that thing. Because I get visions of things happening verbatim how they happen in a different day before sometimes. And I take it as like, okay, this is a message. Maybe this is something that I'm doing for someone else. Maybe this is something I'm doing for myself, but I'm supposed to do it. So it's very important to take heed of our dreams and messages that we get, because it can be saving us.
Absolutely, definitely. And just listening to our instinct, if something doesn't feel right, get it checked out. And even if you do get it checked out and you come out and you're not satisfied, you're still on edge, go somewhere else and get that checked out, because there's no harm in having two different opinions. If
We
both
have to
doctors
stop. We have to stop allowing ourselves to leave doctors' offices with questions.
Yeah, absolutely. And I always say to people, like I used to do, questions come into my head, I write it down, because you go in there and sometimes you just lose your train of thought, or they start telling you stuff and your mind leaves the room. Your body's still there, but your mind's gone somewhere else. So always write your questions down and question them. My nan used to say, not because they're a doctor that means they got it right. Question them, because at the end of the day, it's your body. So you just want to make sure what's going on, not that your knowledge may be any better than them, but you are part of their decision making that involves your body. So it's important, just to have an idea of what's going on. Like I said, I'm in the medical profession myself, and I was unaware that there were 12 types of breast cancer. So I had to go
Listen,
away
you
and
just gave
re-educate
me a
myself.
revelation today, because I didn't know.
Yeah, and I had to go away and re-educate myself on lots of things and chemotherapy drugs. There's so many different types of chemo, where training as a nurse, we only had 2 weeks on that, and it wasn't an area that I specialized in or worked in. So I
Mm-hmm.
literally had, and it's quite funny. I think sometimes when you're in the medical profession, I mean, I don't know, but I found your knowledge, you go from 0 to 100. You just think worst case scenario because you know of everything that can go wrong. Whereas if somebody doesn't have that much knowledge, you're not as panicked, or sometimes you think that's it, this ain't going to happen, that ain't going to happen, it spread. So yeah, just it drives you a little bit mad. It plays on your mind a bit more, but knowledge is key for everybody. Even medicines they used to give me, I'm not familiar with it, I would come home, I would look it up and things like that. So it's important.
Yeah. How do you think we can do a better job of normalizing breast cancer discussion?
I think more of us need to talk about it. Lots of ladies that I'm networking with, like yourself, it it's great, and we are all women of color. And like I say, when I was going through my journey, I found so many Instagram. I was never somebody who had an Instagram account, but
Yeah.
my daughter would always send me stuff, and she was like, "Mum, I'm just going to set you up an account." And I remember the first day I came home from chemotherapy, and I thought, oh, this is all right. It ain't bad. They've put these drugs in my body and I'm walking around the park and I feel absolutely fine. 6 hours later, ladies who, like yourself, have had babies can relate to nausea during pregnancy. I thought that nausea was bad, but chemotherapy nausea is just on another level. So I went onto Instagram and it was a few ladies I found in America, and they were just encouraging me and saying, you can do this. And to this day, we still talk. And I just think it's going to take more than one person to change the world. And it's cultural, isn't it? Because you're in the United States and culturally it's the same as it is in the UK. We just don't talk about it. But I think if each person just, and some people are private, that's fine. Some people don't want to share. But, those of us who are actively trying to do and spread the message, we just have to keep plugging it, talking about it, and trying to, sometimes it's hard because even when you look in the media, and that's why I started that page as well on Instagram, when ladies are like, right, what does it look like to have a mammoplasty? That's the surgery I've had where they've taken about 20% of my breast away and reconstructed it.
Mm-hmm.
What does it look like to have a lumpectomy where they've just removed the cancer? What does that look like on dark skin? You try and Google it and there's no images there.
Right.
All these campaigns, all these leaflets in the media, it's not ladies of dark skin. So I think we have to just start as we are on the ground and just keep plugging it, and just hopefully it will take off. Somebody sees your podcast or has listened to the podcast. I'm trying to set some bits up at the community centres to support people who have cancer as well as family members. And the more of us who talk about it, it's okay, and I'm hoping our generation is different to the generation before us who kept it, oh, don't say, it's hush
Oh
hush.
yeah, I feel like they are. They share everything.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. They're very much don't say, don't say, don't say, as if it's a curse. But our generation, we're just more open with it, and hopefully that will filter down throughout because, like I say, it's that early detection, isn't it?
Mm-hmm.
That makes such a difference to the person's prognosis. And fear is another thing that stops people going, because you don't want to hear that news. Oh, I've got cancer. Nobody wants to hear that. But I would rather hear you've got cancer and it's curable rather than you've got cancer and you've left it too late.
Right. Like I feel like even the fact that we've had greeting cards and all type of cards in stores, right?
Yes.
Where is the section for people who have cancer? Because it's so
Right.
widespread. where are those cards at? Because a lot of people don't even know how to approach someone that has cancer and they don't have it. They don't know, am I supposed to apologize about something? And I'm the type of person where I don't like people, no matter what happens, if somebody died to me,
Hmm.
around me, or if I'm going through something, I don't like people apologizing to me as if they did something. And I don't like coming up to people who've had like a death or dealt with someone with an illness that was close to them and saying, I know what you're going through, because I don't.
Hmm. Yeah.
I think it's very just very surfacey to be like, I'm sorry, I can only imagine. No, you can't. So
Yeah.
I don't say those things. So I feel like people need help in a lot of areas of illnesses that have been around for decades that
Yeah.
is not being looked at. And again, the more we talk about it, the more comfortable people would be with having the discussions. Like, it shouldn't be something in secret, because the reason I share so much is to make someone who is clueless, that's about to go through a transition in their life,
Hmm.
comfortable. Because I'm
Yeah.
sure for you, there were moments where you wish someone would tell you before you got in it.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying?
Absolutely.
So that's what sharing does. Sharing makes people prepare mentally, physically, emotionally, and they don't feel like they're being thrown into like this dark hole of this place because I have a disease or I have a sickness where that can kill me.
Yeah, absolutely. And you touched upon people. A lot of people don't know what to say to somebody who has cancer.
Mhm.
Um, and I would have like my mum's friends when I would go to the shop, like I say, I used to just rock my bald head. And they would be like, "Why did you cut your hair?" And I'm like, "No, I haven't cut my hair. I've got
Which
cancer."
would
And I
be
would get,
very rude to say. And that's why
yeah,
you don't approach someone being like, oh, that hair, you cut it off. Especially if you haven't seen them in a while. You don't know
exactly.
why I cut it off. Just
Yeah,
like
exactly.
you don't approach a person that you assume to be pregnant and be like, so how far along are you? You don't
Yeah.
do it.
Absolutely, there's certain things you just don't do. And I would say to them, "Oh, I've had cancer," and I would just say it casually, like, "Oh, how are you? Oh, yeah, I'm fine. I'm just on chemo. I've had cancer," and their faces would just drop. Where
Yeah.
if you me, "Oh, hi, Natasha. I haven't seen you for a while. How's your mum doing? How you doing?" Then we have a conversation. Now you know why I've got no hair on my head or why I've got no eyebrows or what have you. But a lot of people don't know what to say. They don't say anything. So they avoid you. And I'm like, no, just talk to me as you would normally talk to me. You can say to me, "Natasha, how are you feeling today?" But that's just one thing I want you to ask me. Now I want you just to talk to me normally, as you would,
Yeah.
as if I didn't have cancer.
Because
And it's
I don't
sorry,
like
go on.
attention. I don't like attention like that.
Yeah, no, not at all. It was quite funny. I was dating somebody at the time for 9 months when I got diagnosed.
Hmm.
And his only experience of cancer was his mum's sister who actually died. And he said, he watched her die. And, obviously it's soul destroyed. But it got to the point I used to say to him, "I'm the one with the diagnosis, not you. So you need to snap out of it.
Yeah.
You need to just crack on. I'm going to work laughing and joking every single day. I've
Yeah.
got my plan. I'm not dying. They've said it's stage one. I'm having an operation. I've even got the operation date. Let me work right up until the day before the operation." But
Mhm.
he just couldn't cope. So in the end, I actually broke the relationship off because I thought he's no good for my mental health. I've
Yes.
only been dating him for 9 months, but I thought he's just making my mental health worse. And I thought, well, if you can't cope with this, how are you going to cope with my altered body image? You know? So yeah, that was something and you will find that ladies or gents, because men get breast cancer too, going through this, there may be some people that you just have to walk away from for your own sanity and not feel any guilt.
Hmm. At that time, you need someone that's boosting you up more than you're boosting you up.
Yeah,
And if
absolutely.
you don't have that, it's kind of like you're sinking me. And I
Mm,
can't think right now. I can't afford to think right now. I can't afford to have those thoughts. So if you're not going to change them, we need to
yeah.
disengage.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. And I just thought, no, I just need. And again, I'm not saying that every person is going to react the same to a diagnosis of cancer because everybody's
Mhm,
individual.
mhm.
So I don't expect, you to act the same way as me and vice versa. But you just have to kind of just roll with how the person, if you see that person's coping with it,
Yeah.
just try and cope with it yourself as well. And even if you can't cope with it, don't do it in front of them because you're just bringing them down
Yeah.
as well. And a lot of people forget about the carers. As my daughter, she was excellent. She was always there for me, 18 at the time. And a lot of people forget about the carers who are closely looking after people who are going through cancer because it's always they say to the person with cancer, oh, how are you? But they never say to the carer, how are you? And it's only when I did this, I went to do some photos with another group I found on Instagram as well, and
Mhm.
they were taking pictures of the lady's breast, tastefully done, just showing the change to our bodies, which is going to be displayed actually in the Tate Modern Gallery. But Corona came along. And I would always say to my children, my son was 14 at the time, my daughter 18. And I'd always say to them, how are you doing? How are you feeling? And they'd be like,
Mhm.
fine, mum, fine, mum. And you just think, okay, are they fine? And my daughter was always, I'm fine, mum, I'm okay. And it's only when we went to take these photographs and the photographer simply said to her, so how are you doing? And she burst into tears. And my heart just sunk because I thought for 2 years, and my daughter's, she's not like a girly girl, she's quite hardcore and
Mhm.
she just lost it. And I thought, my goodness, for 2 years you have been holding this in. So, somebody is listening to this who is a carer, it's equally important that you look after yourself as well. Take time out for yourself. As much as you want to focus on the person you're looking after, you need that time for your own health, your own mental health, and
Yeah.
emotional needs as well.
There,
Definitely.
well, 2 a.m. this morning, I was on Instagram and there was a doctor making a video about um, awareness on doctors' mental health right now with this COVID situation. And it
Yeah.
made me think of this, I forgot what you call them, but there was a time where I was feeling like I was having a heart issue where my chest would hurt. So I went to
Right.
this doctor's office and I said, I want an exam. Like, I want a whole physical. I want you to run all these tests to see if, everything is what it needs to be. And
Yeah.
she was doing the picture of my heart. And before that, she was saying that she used to do um, the pictures for people's babies so they can check on their
Ah.
babies. But she said she was having such a relationship with the mothers over the weeks that they would come in. And then when they would lose their babies, she couldn't handle it.
Oh, God.
So she switched to checking people's hearts because it was less of an attachment. Like she said,
Yeah.
she would get really depressed seeing baby mother after mother here and then not here. So it does affect them. It does affect them.
Absolutely. It does. I mean, the surgeon that I've got, she's just absolutely amazing. Originally she was my mum's surgeon, and then it just so happened that
Well,
I'm
that's
on the
nice.
same team.
Hmm.
And I've still got to have a right breast reconstruction because, like I say, at the moment, my left breast with the mammoplasty is probably, I would say, about, I don't know if your sizing in America is the same, but it's probably about a double D, where my right breast is a lot bigger. So the intention was the 1st of April, before Corona sort of struck, to have my right breast reconstructed. So they're both the same size.
Hmm.
not to do the surgery at the same time, because it's a bit like building a house. You need to kind of let the new breast take its own natural shape and settle, and then they can model the right breast off the left breast. So I've still
Right.
got that to have done. But my surgeon, she's just amazing. I said to her, you've actually turned me into a flasher, because I'm always sort of showing, I'm like saying, look at my new boob, look at my new boob. Yeah, because it's nice, especially when you've had children. So it's a nice perky one. I can't say the same for the other one at the moment.
Yeah.
But I'm happy with my new boob, definitely.
Okay. I always tell people that, like, if you're pregnant and this is your first kid, if you didn't think you like being in the nude, now wait till you have that baby, because when you're in labor and all these nurses are coming in the room, you don't know their name, you never met them before, and they're just all up in your area, and I'm just like, hey, this is my vagina. I'm comfortable here, just look at my vagina, and that's how it is when you go through something like that. So
absolutely. So now I just go in, I just strip off, and she's like, Tasha, sometimes she's like, I didn't actually need you to take your top off. I'm like, well, we're here, you might as well have a look, because you just lose all of those inhibitions, like you say, once you've had a baby, it's just right, just get on with it, because you're in so much pain at the time, you don't even care who's in that room.
Right. It is nothing for me to get naked, okay?
Yeah.
What can women do to be more responsible about their bodies? Or men, because men get breast cancer too.
Absolutely. The main thing I would say is self-checking. Make it, mark it on your calendar, put it in your phones, put it in whatever devices you have. The first of every month, minimum, just have a feel of both breasts. Like I say, if you can do it once a month, great. But just bearing in mind, I wouldn't say do it around your menstruation time, because your breasts change. Sometimes they're a bit more lumpy. But the first of every month, depending on how your cycle falls, even if it is around your cycle time, just check your breast all the time, because that, like I say, the majority of breast cancers are found by lumps. As we discussed before, diet, smoking, drinking. Don't get me wrong, I sometimes have a drink. I had a little drink last night with a few friends on a Zoom party, but I've stopped smoking. I'm trying to eat more sensibly. I'm trying to incorporate a lot more exercise in my diet. But a lot of breast cancers just happen because of our female hormones, and it's not through its fault. But check your breast, anything, even if it is a little lump or a bump, just go and get it checked, because it's better to have it checked rather than leave it and it goes from a stage 1 to a stage 4. And it's quite funny, one of my other good friends, I remember one day I think normally when I'd have chemotherapy, it'd be on a Friday, and I'd be fine on the Friday, Saturday, and the Sunday I would start to dip and go down. So the Tuesday, a friend and I went for something to eat, and I went to a Chinese restaurant, and I just felt I sat in the car crying. He went into Asda, which is now Walmart. And I just sat in the car and I was just crying and crying and crying. And then I got a message through for another friend. She also got diagnosed with breast cancer. So, of course, that made me cry even more. But hers was pre-cancerous cells. They hadn't actually developed into a stage 1. But again, it was just a tiny little lump she found. So had she had left that and just thought, oh, it's just a tiny little lump, that could have progressed to a stage 2, stage 3. So we have to take responsibility for our own bodies, because even though, yes, you might be in the system to have mammograms done, I still have to check my breast, even though I'm going to have a mammogram every year. So I think, the onus is on us at the end of the day, our bodies, our responsibility.
I love social media when it comes to okay, I have this, let me put this in the search and see who has this or what's available for this. So when it comes to resources for breast cancer, again, I put breast cancer into the search and I found you on IG. And we're
Oh,
now having this discussion. And it's about that. It's about sharing, because if you weren't sharing, I wouldn't find you. We wouldn't have this conversation. And for women, what would you say is the best go-to for resources for breast cancer? Because it can't just be your doctor.
yeah, absolutely. And like I was saying earlier, it's just little things. If you even want to talk about your hair journey, for me, Instagram was a good source to find ladies who look like me, ladies who can understand how my hair's kinky. My hair's only just growing back now, and we're able to share things culturally that other cultures may not understand. So, here in the UK, you've probably got it. I don't know if you've got it in the States. Macmillan, we've got Cancer UK, all those other outlets that you can go to, who are professional bodies, and they can put you in contact if you need help with somebody for like your emotional needs, or you've got your breast care nurses. But social media, Instagram in particular, was a good network for me. And like I say, I speak to somebody in Pakistan, lots of ladies in the States, less ladies in the UK. They're the ones I'm trying to dig out because I know they are here. But social media for me definitely is a good go-to. And I try to make the page as varied as possible. I've got 5 ladies I'm going to feature again this week. Some are finished, one's finished radiotherapy, some's finished chemotherapy, some it's just their year's anniversary. And I always say to ladies, just send me anything, because there's always something on that page that somebody will message me and say, I can identify with that.
Mm-hmm.
So I just try to keep it as varied as possible, and just speak to your friends and network with other ladies, whether they've been through it or not. Because, like I say, even if somebody has gone through the same journey, your journeys are going to be slightly different, but you can still most certainly relate to each other. But don't keep it in. Do not share it, because that's the worst thing you can do, because you're battling your body, you're battling your mind, you're battling your emotions. So don't just sit there in silence and suffer, because that is the worst thing to do.
I agree. Before we go, can you share some words of encouragement for any women or men going through this process of finding out they have breast cancer and the beginning stages and just
Yeah.
like what they do?
Yeah, absolutely. Like I said, any lumps, anything you're not sure of, any changes in your breast, please do go and get it checked. Nobody wants to hear the words, you've got cancer, but it's better to hear the words, you've got cancer and we can cure it, rather than it's gone too far, it's spread to other parts of your body. And, for those who are unfortunate to get the cancer diagnosis, I think the main thing is, I always used to say to myself, I had cancer, cancer never had me. I'd flip it, reverse psychology. I had the cancer in my breast. Cancer doesn't tell me what to do. It's not coming to take over my life. And it's just about trying to stay as positive as possible. And don't get me wrong, it's not easy. There was days when I'd just be crying. I remember one day I just stayed in bed and I thought, I'm not getting out of bed. I didn't brush my teeth. I didn't have a shower, and I love food. And the next day I had all mouth ulcers from the chemo, and I thought, Natasha, I'm not doing that again. You got to get yourself out of the bed. But the key is day at a time. Don't try and look into next week. Just
Mm-hmm.
do a day at a time. You've woken up today, thank God for that. And you just take your time hour by hour and get through the day. And then when you've got through the day, you say, right, okay, tomorrow's another day, and you do the same thing. And when I was going through my treatment, I had 18 weeks. I remember the consultant saying to me, 18 weeks of chemotherapy. And I was quickly trying to count 18 weeks on my fingers, translating that into months. So I got a calendar, and every week I ticked off another week. So give yourself little goals. It doesn't have to be anything huge. It could just be something as simple as making yourself a cup of tea or
Mhm.
sitting out of bed for an hour, you know, because chemotherapy obviously affects everybody differently. But it's
Mhm.
day at a time. If you're a man or a woman of faith, trust in God, whatever your faith, you know, turn to that. Use the resources that you have around you. Speak to your friends and your family. I know not everybody's, you know, in a situation where they might have that strong family and friends sort of bond and environment, but just use whatever resources you have and try not to just sit there and manage it on your own. And you know what? You can be happy 1 minute and sad the next. That is normal.
Yeah.
Don't beat yourself up, you know. Don't think, oh, I should be doing this. No, just listen to your body, and day at a time is my advice. And just remember, um, the light at the end of the tunnel, because when you see it, it is just amazing.
Mhm.
You know, so day at a time, and just keep faith.
Mm,
Yeah.
I love it. Where can everyone find you or contact you?
Okay, thank you. So I'm on Instagram at black bald, as in bald head, N beautiful. So black, bald, and beautiful. And like I say, I set that Instagram page up last October, because when I would go on other Instagram pages, it was predominantly not ladies of color, and they've got tens and thousands of followers.
Mhm.
And I thought, oh, okay, I don't have tens and thousands of followers,
Mhm.
but I probably have about 1,500 followers. But for
Mhm.
me, it's what the page does for people. It's not about who's following me, who's following me. Yeah, I would love to be tens and thousands of followers. But as long as that page is helping ladies, and I know it is because they message me and they tell me, and they will, you know, say, right, this has happened. And I say, oh, I know another lady who's had that surgery, so I'm going to put you in contact with her. Or they will just ask simple questions like, I've finished chemotherapy 6 months ago, still feeling nauseated. Oh yeah, that happened to me. You know, just little things. So it's clearly working for the audience that it's targeted towards, and that's good enough for me.
Mhm.
And like I say, at the end of the day, I'm networking with ladies like yourself.
Mhm.
The BBC has also contacted me as well. I'm trying to set some bits up in the community. So, you know, as you network and as you get different ideas, other little projects spiral from that as well. But yeah, black, bald, and beautiful is where I can be found.
Mhm.
And
And
feel free,
I,
send me anything. I can post it on there. There's no
yeah,
rules or regulations as to what I post. Anything.
yeah, I want to thank you for doing it because that's how I found you. And just going through the page, I like Instagram pages of people who have something to say. It's not just look at this that I got, look at me. Like, what do you have to say? And your page says a lot. It gives a lot of information.
Thank you.
It shows you what this is. You know what I'm saying? And this generation will call you the plug. And
Oh,
the plug is basically the person that connects other people and other things. And you're
right.
connecting women all over the world, no matter what they're going through, and sharing their experiences and being super grateful about their experiences that they're sharing. And with that, it makes me feel like, okay, now I see why a woman would feel ashamed of the fact that she had breast cancer, because who would willingly want to show someone their body changing and being
Mm,
uncomfortable with that change and seeing that change? But women need to see it because it's going to make you
absolutely.
more sympathetic to the next person going through this. So it
Yeah.
needs to be seen. And I will be posting and reposting what you post, and I
Thank
will be
you. Yeah.
sharing this. And I just want more women and men to be aware and comfortable with their bodies, because just because our bodies are changing and going through transitions doesn't mean we automatically are done.
Absolutely. And that's why I try to, you know, there are some amazing women who have sent pictures of their bodies post-surgery. And I'm just like, thank you. But because I always check with ladies, so many ladies are like, oh, just take my pictures and post it. But even though they've said that to me, I always say to them, right, I've seen your picture. Do you mind if I repost that? Because some of the most powerful pictures I have on there are ladies who are showing their body image. And there's one lady on there, again, from America, and she's had a bilateral mastectomy. And there's another lady I follow who's actually a doctor, and she was I just admire her so much, a young lady. I think her Instagram name is M's Living Her Best Life. And I just admire her so much. She's actually a doctor. Her story quickly, she had a baby. She said in the delivery suite, her nipples started bleeding. And she didn't think anything of it. Her mum's also a general practitioner, and her sister is an anaesthetist. So you've got three doctors in the room. The midwives didn't think anything of it. You know, you've just had a baby, your nipples are bleeding. So nobody did anything. She said she didn't think anything of it. But she went home and her nipples kept bleeding and bleeding. She was breastfeeding. She went to the GP. Turned out the bleeding nipples were stage 4 breast cancer.
Wow.
She is watching her post. She's had me in tears so many times. She then went to had scans done. The cancer had spread to her spine, and I think she had it in another organ. And they basically said to her, yeah, you're stage 4, you're going to die. But she didn't give up. She was like, nope. They said they weren't going to remove the breast because there was no point. She was dying. She's since now gone on to have her breast removed. And also there's a picture of her as well on the Black.
I think I saw it. There was a Black woman pregnant with her breast removed, and she posted in like a mirror. But I'm not sure if it was her, but that's amazing. I would love to hear her story.
Amazing. And for me, those are such powerful, because, you know, as women, you think your hair, your breasts, those are signs of what makes us female. And it's just actually, it's okay to look different because that's your story, that's your journey. So I always say to ladies, and you know, the page isn't about me. Yes, I post little bits. I have a personal page as well where my whole journey's on there. But I find this page is just about everybody. So whatever anybody wants to send it through, and I'm more than happy to post it, pictures, quotes, people ringing the bell, because it's just inspiring, I think, for everybody. And that's what the page is about. It's not about me. So.
Yes, I love it, and thank you for doing that. Thank you, Natasha, for coming on here and talking with us.
I could talk forever, Chan. Seriously, I could have you here till it's like you look through your windows and it's like dark outside.
Right. And I'm just like, I don't mind. Like, I can continue this conversation, but it was really good. And thank you for doing it.
You're more than welcome. And it's been lovely. And I'm sure we will talk anyway. Thank you so much. And make what you're doing as well, definitely. Because, you know, technology has just progressed in so many ways, you know, podcasts and it's the internet. I remember dial-up internet, you know, who even does that? Who even does that now?
You're right.
Yeah, absolutely. But thank you so much and have a blessed day.
You too. Thank you.
Yes, and we'll speak soon.
Yes. Bye.
Take care. Bye. Bye-bye.
Bye.
Bye.